A very good morning to all of you. So in today's class, we're going to talk about primary education and the recommendation of National Policy of Education 1986 and the Program of Actions 1992. Now let's see the introduction. The National Policy on Education was adopted by the Parliament of India in the month of May and in the year 1986, right? And during that time, the actually in this National Education Policy 1986, it was declared that the implementation and the result of this policy will be reviewed after every 5 years. But during that time, the National Front formed the government, and in the year 1990, just 3 years after coming to power, this government appointed the Ram Murthy Review Committee to review the National Education Policy 1986. The report of this review committee was yet to be considered, but then the Congress came again to power, it and the Congress then appointed the Janardhan Reddy Committee 1992 to review the implementation and the result of this National Policy on Education 1986. So on the basis of these two reports, the government introduced some amendments in the National Education Policy 1986 and proclaimed it under the title National Policy on Education 1986 with modification undertaken in 1992. Some scholars by mistake term this as the National Education Policy 1992. In the same year, the government also made some changes in its plan of action, and this change plan of action 1992 is termed as the plan of action 1992. So therefore, if you just check from your syllabus, you will find there the unit name is National Education Policy 1986 and the Program of Action 1992. So this is actually the history behind these two this National Policy on Education 1986 and the revised, or I would say the modification of NPE come up with this program of action, or we say plan of action 1992. So now let's see the recommendation on primary education. So let's see and find out what are those recommendations made by the National Policy on Education of 1986 on this primary education that include pre-primary and elementary education. So first let's see the one by one those recommendations. The National Policy of Education 1986, they focus on children and especially emphasize on investing for the development of these young children. Second one, the Early Childhood Care and Education, that is ECCE, will receive high priority and will be suitably integrated with the Integrated Child Development Service Program wherever possible. And then number three, daycare center will be provided as a support service for universalization of primary education. So these recommendations mainly they focus on those on children, especially on children from 0 to 6 years and 6 to 14 years, right? So uh, the ECCE will work together with the ICDS in order to promote and develop young children. Now let's see the next point. The new trust in elementary education will emphasize two aspects, that is, the universal enrollment and universal education of children up to the age of 14 years, and the improvement in the quality of primary education. So basically, this policy will work on two aspects, that is universal enrollment, that means they will increase the enrollment of students in school, that means they have to construct many buildings, come up with many schools in order to increase the enrollment of the students and decrease the dropout. Then also they focus on universal education of children up to the age of 14 years, therefore they have come up with this free and compulsory education for the children from 6 to 14 years. And also they try to improve, they are recommended to improve on the quality of primary education, right from the quality, like they will bring out many programs, and then there will be many training center for teachers in order to be more professional in their teaching career, and so on. The next one is a child center and activity based process of learning will be adopted at the primary stage. The policy of non detention at the primary stage will be retained and corporal punishment will be firmly excluded. So this policy they have recommended on a child-center approach. That means it will be it will be mainly focused on the child growth and development, right? And they say there will be no detention. That means children will be promoted from one class to another class, and there will be the evaluation will be flexible, it should not be restricted, and then also this corporal punishment will be firmly excluded. That means there will be no corporal punishment. If any teachers find doing this, then they will be charged, or maybe they will have to face the disciplinary committee. Next is provision will be made of essential facilities in primary school, including at least 2 reasonably large rooms that are usable in all weathers, and the necessary toys, blackboard, maps, chart, and other learning materials. At least 2 teachers, one of whom a woman. So this policy have recommended on the provisions to be made on essential facility. That means more of primary school, and then there will be 2 rooms, large room for the children to sit and study and learn and eat, and then there are which will be usable for all weather, right? Rainy season, summer season, and so on. And then there should be some necessary toys for the children to play with. Then the blackboard is important for the teachers to do their classroom teaching, and then maps, charts, and other learning materials are required for the development of these kids. So at least 2 teachers will be there in the classroom, one of whom is a woman. Because why a woman? Because a woman is I would say she is more caring compared to man. That is why we need women at this stage, primary stage. Let's see the next point. A large systematic programs of non-formal education will be launched for school dropout for children from habitations without school, working children, and girls who cannot attend whole day school. As you know, in India, uh, India is a country with lots of diversity, and there are lots of section. There are some people belonging from middle class family, upper class family, and below poverty line. So there will be children who will not be able to go to school every day, and especially girls, because in India, whenever girls reach up to the age of 14, even 13, 15, then they are considered to be ready for marriage. So that is why there is a tremendous drop off of children, especially for girls at those particular age, and therefore the national policy of 1986 they have come up with this recommendation to set up non-formal education for such kind of students who have dropped out from school due to various reasons, and especially for those children who are working and girls who cannot attend whole day school. The next one is modern technological aids will be used to improve the learning environment. So during that time also the government have they have come up with this new idea of bringing technology aids into the classroom teaching. So here the policy they have recommended uh, to use this technology in order to improve the learning environment and make the learning environment more interesting. That means the use of television, radio, or any other aids. The next one is effective steps to be taken to provide a framework for the curriculum on the lines of the national core curriculum based on the needs of the learners related to the local environment. So these are the steps to be taken, okay, and to provide a framework for the curriculum. That means curriculum will be provided to the students based on the needs of the learner related to the local environment. That means they should see the culture, traditions of the local environment before they frame the curriculum. Now let's see the next topic, that is Program of Action 1992. If you remember right from the very first introduction, I told you about the National Policy of Education 1986. So due to politicians' power, I mean like one party one party after the other, so that is why they have come up with so many committee, especially the committee under the chairmanship of Mr. Ready. So they have come up with new modification on this policy 1986, and they name it as the Program of Action or the Plan of Action 1992. So this Program of Action 92 is just a modification of the policy 1986. Okay, so let's see the Program of Early Childhood Care and Education. So these are the recommendation on the Program of Early Childhood Care and Education, which has been made by the POA 1992. So they recommended on setup of more ICDS center, okay, integrated child development service, and then there will be more of Balwadis and daycare center, then more of pre-primary school, and more of maternal and child care service, sorry, child health service, and adequate number of workers should be appointed in order to be able to run all these centers and conducted these programs. So these are some of the program of ECCA for children from 0 to 6 years old. Now let's see the program of elementary education, right? So non-formal education to be accepted alternative channel, sorry. So apart from formal education, so non-formal education to be an alternative one for children who cannot attend school every day, and especially for girls and for the dropout student. Next one is NCERT revised school syllabus and brought textbook for class 1 to 12. So this NCERT is the one who is responsible for revising school syllabus and come up with textbook for right from class 1 to 12. The next one is this program of action they have recommended on total literacy campaign to be advocated. So I think every school during that literacy day they used to do campaign in order to make the parents understand about the importance of education for the child. The next one is MLL, that is the minimum levels of learning for each state laid down. So this program of action, they have come up with these recommendations for MLL, that is minimum levels of learning for each state laid down. So you know that uh, we have studied about this individual differences, about the personality development. We have studied about these growth and developments, all those stages. So children pass from one stage to another stage, and that is why even the thought process is changes from concrete to abstract. So therefore, children at primary stage should have minimum levels of learning compared to the children at secondary and higher secondary stage. Next is education for all encouraged. So this program of action 1992 they have recommended on education for all. Next is scope of Operation Blackboard has been enlarged, 50% teachers to be women. So yes, so schools they every school there should be blackboard, and there will be a lot of scope for operating blackboard, and then 50% of the teachers will be women. As I already told you that women have a caring heart compared to men, because women knows how to handle children very well compared to men. That is why 50% of the teachers should be women. This recommendation made by the revised policy 1992 is very familiar to every one of you right now, because it's written here: free and compulsory education to all children up to the age of 14 years by 2000. So that is the aim. The next is they want 35,000 more primary school. Okay, and the next one is different program of non-formal education to be spelled out to improve to improve enrollment and to reduce dropout. Next is an additional 11 lakh classroom required for elementary education. And the national curriculum framework is brought out. So they have come up with this new national curriculum framework, that is NCF. So they also talk about load of school bag and academic burden to be decreased. Okay, I think till now the every school they're trying their best to reduce the load of school bag and academic burden to the students, so that it will be a joyful learning for all the students. So I will not conclude here because there are still two left, recommendation on secondary and higher education. So I would like to say thank you so much and for listening on the primary education, on the recommendations of and on the recommendation and program of action 1992. And those images that you have seen is retrieved from these slideshare.net, nationalinterest.in, and livemin.com. So from those images you will see how the government have tried their best to implement those recommendations in improving primary education. So with this I would like to say thank you.